Unveiling the Israel-Palestine conflict. In September 2023, there was a noticeable escalation of rivalries between Israel and Palestine. The Israel-Palestine area has become entrenched in an ongoing spat that continues to impact the lives of those in the region. This video will explore the key players and the underlying issues that have fueled this antipathy, which has led to decades of violence, heartache, and political stalemate. 1. Tracing the origins of the conflict. Step into the time machine and be transported back to Palestine, an era spanning from 1516 to 1918, when the land was under the grip of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire ruled over Palestine before World War I. During this time, Palestine was a culturally diverse land, with Arab Muslims, Arab Christians, and Jewish communities coexisting. However, after the war ended, the League of Nations entrusted Britain with the responsibility of administering Palestine as a mandate in 1920. During this period, waves of Jewish immigrants, driven by the vibrant Zionist commotion, poured into Palestine, sparking intense tensions with the native Arab natives. As if this cauldron of emotions weren't enough, British policies like the historic Balfour Declaration of 1917 fanned the flames of discord, further stoking the fires of conflict. In 1947, the United Nations introduced Pledge 181, also known as the Partition Plan. This plan aimed to divide the British Mandate of Palestine into two separate states, one for the Arabs and another for the Jews. Basically, the goal was to create harmony by giving each group land to govern and live in. On May 14, 1948, when the State of Israel was officially entrenched, the First Arab-Israeli War broke out. Against all odds, Israel emerged triumphant in 1949, but unfortunately, this victory came at a cost. Around 750,000 Palestinians were displaced, and the region was divided into three parts: the West Bank of the Jordan River, the State of Israel, and the Gaza Strip. Tensions kept simmering. Israel and its neighboring territories, such as Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, were like a brewing pot ready to boil over. Tensions escalated significantly following the 1956 Suez Crisis, during which the Egyptian government took control of the Suez Canal from the British and French-owned company responsible for its management. In a bid to prepare for a potential Israeli invasion, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria joined forces and made mutual defense pacts. This set the stage for even more dramatic events. 2. Key events and turning points. The year 1967 was a turning point. Egyptian President Abdel Gamal Nasser engaged in a series of maneuvers that pushed Israel to preemptively strike Egyptian and Syrian air forces, thus igniting the dramatic Six-Day War. Guess what? Israel emerged victorious once again. As a result, Israel gained control over the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. But wait, there's more. In the aftermath of the Six-Day War, tensions continued to simmer until 1973. Egypt and Syria united forces in a surprised two-front attack on Israel. This conflict, known as the Yom Kippur War or the October War, didn't result in massive territorial gains for any party involved. However, Egyptian President Anwar al-Sadat portrayed it as a victory, as it allowed for negotiations over previously ceded territory. Finally, in 1979, after a series of ceasefires and complex peace negotiations, representatives from Egypt and Israel signed the legendary Camp David Accords, a peace treaty aimed to put an end to the three-decade-long conflict between Egypt and Israel. The Camp David Accords brought hope for Israel's relations with its neighbors. However, despite this progress, the question of Palestinian aptitude and self-governance was left hanging in the air. In 1987, the Palestinian people in the West Bank and Gaza Strip had had enough and decided to rise against the Israeli government. This historic uprising, known as the First Intifada, sent shockwaves through the region. To cool down the temperatures, in 1993, the Oslo I Accords was amended. The Oslo Accords aimed to advance Israeli-Palestinian peace and establish greater Palestinian self-rule in the West Bank. These accords were a glimmer of hope, providing a framework for the Palestinians to govern themselves in the West Bank and Gaza. It was a moment of mutual recognition between the newly established Palestinian Authority and Israel's government. Again, in 1995, the Oslo II Accords stepped up to the plate to expand on the first agreement. This time, it mandated Israel's complete withdrawal from 6 cities and a whopping 450 towns in the West Bank. Unfortunately, the fleeting sense of peace couldn't hold out forever. In 2000, the second intifada erupted, causing widespread unrest and turmoil. The flame was sparked by a combination of factors, including Palestinian frustrations over Israel's control of the West Bank, a peace process that seemed to be going nowhere, and the controversial visit of former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. This time, the Israeli government decided to take a controversial step of its own. In 2002, they approved the construction of a barrier wall around the West Bank. This move received plenty of international opposition but didn't sway them. In a surprising turn of events, in 2006, Hamas, a militant movement party, rose to power in the Palestinian Authority's parliamentary elections, beating out the long-standing majority party, Fatah. This gave Hamas control over the Gaza Strip, a small coastal land that borders Egypt. However, this wasn't received warmly from Western governments, who hesitated to recognize Hamas's victory. In fact, they swiftly labeled Hamas as a terrorist organization due to their ideological differences. Predictably, things got ugly. Violence escalated between Hamas and Fatah, causing turmoil in the region. After failed peace talks and deadly confrontations, Fatah and Hamas finally reached an agreement in 2014. They formed a unity government, striving to find common ground and work towards a brighter future together. In the summer of 2014, things got intense in the Palestinian territories. There was a serious military conflict between the Israeli military and Hamas. It was a chaotic time, with Hamas launching almost 3,000 rockets at Israel, and in response, Israel launched a major offensive in Gaza. The fighting didn't end until late August 2014, when Egypt's intervention finally agreed upon a ceasefire. But by then, the damage had been done. Tragically, 73 Israelis and 2,251 Palestinians had lost their lives. Unfortunately, the violence didn't stop there. In 2015, there were more clashes between Israelis and Palestinians, leading Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas of Fatah to make a bold announcement. He declared that Palestinians would no longer be bound by the territorial divisions established in the Oslo Accords. Abbas's declaration left many wondering what the future held for Israelis and Palestinians and how this bold step would impact their relationship. Fast forward to 2018, when tensions were still running high. Palestinians in the Gaza Strip organized weekly demonstrations at the border with Israel. These protests kicked off in March 2018 and continued till May 2018. One of the most significant protests coincided with the 70th anniversary of the Nakba, which marked the departure of Palestinians during the establishment of Israel. These turbulent times led to a divisive situation between Fatah and Hamas. Fatah, led by Mahmoud Abbas, took control of the Palestinian Authority from the West Bank, while Hamas took de facto control of the Gaza Strip. Despite Abbas's sincere efforts to unite people under the Palestinian Authority, the division persisted through the late 2010s and into the early 2020s. The Donald J. Trump administration made it a top priority to achieve a peace deal between Israel and Palestine. To shake things up, they decided to cancel funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which provides aid to Palestinian refugees, and move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, a move that challenged long-standing U.S. policy. While this decision received applause from Israeli leaders, it faced strong condemnation from Palestinian leaders and others in the Middle East and Europe. Now, another clash rose again. You see, Israel believes that Jerusalem, in its entirety, is its capital, while Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of their future state. Israelis also point to historical events to reinforce their claims. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, following the Holocaust, was seen as a necessary haven for Jewish people who had endured discrimination and persecution. Moreover, Israelis argue that historical precedents justify their presence in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. These areas hold religious and historical significance, with places like Hebron and Bethlehem being seen as integral parts of biblical Israel. Israelis view these territories as their ancestral homeland, which further justifies their settlements and claims over these regions. This fundamental disagreement led to clashes and tensions between the two sides. In early 2020, the Trump administration unveiled its Peace to Prosperity plan, which had been highly anticipated. However, Palestinians rejected it because they felt it supported Israel's annexation of settlements in the West Bank and granted control over an undivided Jerusalem. This rejection further complicated the path to peace. On October 2020, when an Israel court ruled that several Palestinian families in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem were to be evicted from their homes by May 2021, with their land handed over to Jewish families. This decision sparked outrage and led to protests. In February 2021, the affected Palestinian families appealed the court ruling, further fueling the ongoing legal battle over property ownership and resulting in the forceful displacement of Palestinians from their homes in Jerusalem. In late April 2021, the streets of Jerusalem became a stage for Palestinians who were deeply upset about pending evictions. Their frustration led to protests throughout the city, particularly in Sheikh Jarrah, where impassioned residents and activists hosted nightly sit-ins. As the weeks rolled into May 2021, a court ruling favoring the evictions fueled even more significant demonstrations. Tensions reached a boiling point on May 7th, a day etched in memory, when violence erupted at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. As days passed, violence continued to plague the city, with Israeli police resorting to lethal and non-lethal force. Then it happened. Hamas, the militant group governing Gaza, joined forces with other Palestinian militant groups to unleash a relentless barrage of rockets into the Israeli track. The situation had escalated, leaving both sides caught in a dangerous and deadly crossfire. Israel swiftly retaliated, launching artillery bombardments and airstrikes to target Hamas and other militants and their infrastructure, including tunnels and rocket launchers. Regrettably, the Israeli campaign extended beyond intended targets, striking non-military infrastructure such as residential buildings, media headquarters, and healthcare facilities. Innocent lives were caught in the chaos, amplifying the devastation caused by the conflict. Drawn from the embers of unresolved conflicts, the wounds of the past have once again been reignited. It's October 2023, and the tension between Israel and Hamas has reached a boiling point. In an unexpected turn, Hamas, the militant Islamist group in subjection of Gaza, launched a full-scale attack. Rockets rained down on Israel, while invading southern Israeli cities and towns near the Gaza border. Israel, caught off guard but determined, swiftly responds with a lethal counter-operation. Just a day after the initial attack, the Israeli cabinet officially declared war on Hamas. The defense minister issued a directive to the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, urging them to impose a complete lockdown on the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Gaza is facing a different kind of crisis. Alongside the escalating violence, the region is running out of vital amenities like safe drinking water, commodities, and supplies due to a blockade imposed by Israel on October 9, 2023. 3. The humanitarian impacts of the Israel-Palestine war. The people of Gaza are caught amidst a humanitarian upheaval, struggling to meet their basic needs. One of the most distressing consequences of the Israel-Palestine strife is the high number of displaced Palestinians. According to the United Nations, around 1 million Palestinians in Gaza have been forced to leave their homes during the initial week of the conflict with Israel. In countries like Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, the Israeli-occupied West Bank, and Gaza, there are currently over 5.6 million Palestinian refugees. These individuals are mainly the descendants of those who fled their homes in 1948. And get this, around half of these registered refugees are stateless, lacking citizenship or official status. Many of them are forced to live in cramped and overcrowded camps. The current situation with Hamas in Gaza is causing quite a stir because it violates international humanitarian law. You see, this escalation isn't just affecting the combatants involved, but innocent citizens as well. It's a big deal and has caught the attention of numerous United Nations officials, governments, and others who are putting pressure on Israel to lift the siege. But here's the thing. It's not just the international community speaking up. Even 24 Israeli human rights groups have come together to raise their voices. They've released a statement, making some essential demands. Firstly, they're calling on Hamas to release any hostages they might be holding. On top of that, they're asking Israel to end the blockade causing so much suffering for the people of Gaza. And finally, they're pleading with both sides to stop the senseless killing of innocent civilians and find a peaceful solution. It's a challenging situation with a lot at stake, but it's crucial to find a resolution that considers the welfare of everyone involved. 4. Human casualties and infrastructure damage in the Israel-Palestine conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict has resulted in numerous casualties and widespread infrastructure damage over the years. Israeli air raids have led to the death of over 2,670 Palestinians, with approximately 25% being children. On the other side, the military operation conducted by Hamas has resulted in the deaths of around 1,400 Israelis. Additionally, the civil registry in the Gaza Strip reports that at least 50 families have been eliminated. The Israel-Palestine conflict has resulted in significant financial implications, particularly regarding infrastructure defacement. The destruction and demolition caused by the Israeli airstrikes are devastating. According to the United Nations OCHA report, 11 mosques have been wrecked, while 7 churches and mosques have suffered varying degrees of detriment. The affected locations were mosques in Gaza City, Khan Yunis, Beit Lahia, and Yarmouk. Sadly, as the Euromed Human Rights Monitor highlighted, some desecrated churches were historically significant. Residential areas have suffered immensely as well. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs revealed that a shocking 22,600 residential units have been destroyed. Additionally, 2,835 units have been damaged, with 1,791 becoming uninhabitable due to severe destruction. Furthermore, around 12,630 units have sustained lesser damage, as reported by the United Nations. The impact on the healthcare sector has been devastating. A World Health Organization report stated that 19 medical centers had been damaged. On top of that, all 13 hospitals and other medical facilities were only partially operational due to limited supplies and fuel shortages. The destruction extends to essential services as well. According to the World Health Organization, 20 ambulances have been reported as damaged. Moreover, a staggering 90 educational facilities have been impacted, including 20 UNRWA installations that served as emergency shelters. Even industrial facilities have not been spared, with at least 70 obliterated. This included sewage pumping stations and wastewater sanitation plants, resulting in a hazardous accumulation of sewage and waste on the alleys, posing a severe health risk. The media has also suffered greatly, with 49 media and press workrooms being ravaged, including Al Ayyam, a regional liberated magazine quartered in Palestine Castle in Gaza. The consequences have also taken a toll on mental well-being, affecting both those directly impacted and individuals abroad. Research has demonstrated that living in such unrelenting circumstances increases the risk of various mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Forced to leave their homes in search of safety, they find themselves uprooted and grappling with uncertainty and fear. This profound disruption to their lives can significantly impact their mental well-being. Unfortunately, the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict is taking a toll on the mental health and overall well-being of countless children exposed to violence. This devastating situation significantly impacts their young minds, leading to significant emotional distress and long-lasting psychological effects. During a war or conflict, people often feel pressured to pick sides as the conflict becomes more polarized and visible. Such heightened tensions hinder finding common ground and engaging in productive dialogue. The conflict creates internal divisions within Jewish and Palestinian American communities, comprising individuals with diverse political and social perspectives. These divisions strain relationships, fracture organizations, and weaken the support systems that once fostered community cohesion. Looking at the global economy, the current escalation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is causing quite a stir in the global economy. One significant consequence of this conflict is the skyrocketing crude oil prices. The Middle East alone accounts for almost 1/3 of the world's oil supply. Any disruptions in this volatile region directly hit oil prices worldwide. As a result, prices of both Brent crude and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude have shot up like a rocket. The cost of U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude oil futures surged by 5.8% to reach $87.7 per barrel, marking the most significant increase since April 3rd. Similarly, international benchmark Brent crude oil futures, set to expire in December, rose by 5.7%, or $4.89 to reach $90.89 per barrel. This week, as of October 16th, WTI crude oil gained over 4%, marking its most significant weekly increase since September 1st. These rising oil prices are starting to pump up the inflation levels. The increased transportation costs put pressure on the prices of all sorts of goods and services. This means getting on those essential commodities will cost you an extra dollar. If the conflict spills over to other oil-producing nations, like Iran, some seriously harsh consequences could rock the global economy. And guess what? Your spending power may dwindle. The hopes for lasting peace and reconciliation remain a priority, but the scars from this intense and heartbreaking period would not fade quickly. This poses the question, how could a resolution be reached to bring lasting stability to the region? To truly address the challenges in Israel and Palestine, they must confront the underlying issues head-on. It's time to say no to violence, aggression, and the artificial barriers that divide these two nations. Just like in life, what you sow is what you reap. So, if lasting security is desired, it's crucial to foster a genuine feeling of safety for everyone living in these lands, present and future. Have you ever wondered how much money the U.S. has given to Israel in terms of weapons and military security? It's a significant amount, no doubt, over $120 billion. Here's a proposal. The funds must be redirected toward reconciliation efforts. Instead of fueling the conflict, imagine the impact that can be made by investing in genuine peace-building initiatives. By shifting the focus and investing in reconciliation, there is a real chance of lasting peace in Israel and Palestine. Furthermore, some efforts have been made to end the war and make Israel the holy place again. The proposal known as the one-state solution, alternatively referred to as a binational state, offers a potential resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It suggests establishing a unified state from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. This proposal seeks to create a shared and inclusive governance structure for Israeli and Palestinian populations. Moreover, other proposals have been put to ease the war and reincarnate the friendship between Israel and Palestine. One is the Federation proposal. The idea behind a federation is to merge Israel and the West Bank into a single political entity. By applying Israeli law to the entire West Bank, all Palestinians living there would be granted full citizenship and voting rights. The goal is to establish a country with equal rights and representation for Jews and Palestinians. However, the implementation would involve dividing the country into smaller provinces or cantons to maintain a Jewish majority. This approach seeks to create a sense of inclusivity and shared ownership, potentially reducing tensions based on unequal representation. 2. The Confederation proposal. By establishing a confederation, the idea is to foster a cooperative relationship between Israel and Palestine, similar to the European Union. In simple terms, each side would maintain its government but collaborate on important issues such as sharing resources, ensuring security, and promoting economic development. This proposal creates an environment of mutual understanding, compromise, and joint decision-making. With free movement and residency between the two states, people could connect and forge connections that are built upon trust and a shared understanding. Ultimately, the ability to move and reside effortlessly creates an inclusive space for people to come together, form meaningful bonds, and develop mutual trust and understanding. 3. The Expulsion proposal. Although highly controversial and widely rejected, some individuals propose the expulsion or transfer of Palestinians from the entire West Bank as a solution to the conflict. However, notably, this approach is seen as profoundly unjust and unethical by most Jews and Arabs alike. It is considered a form of ethnic cleansing and is unlikely to lead to a peaceful resolution. In fact, this proposal exacerbated tensions, perpetuating cycles of violence and mistrust. 4. The Autonomy Plus proposal. This proposal, put forward by Naftali Bennett, seeks to enhance Palestinian self-governance in the areas already under their control in the West Bank. Palestinians would have greater autonomy by conducting elections and controlling educational and social services. On the other hand, Israel would annex the parts of the West Bank it already governs, ensuring its security interests. The aim is to balance Palestinian self-determination and Israeli security concerns, alleviating some conflicts rooted in governance and control. Now, the question is, which countries support Israel and which ones are not? The United States, Israel's closest ally, has condemned Hamas's attacks. Throughout the years, the U.S. has been a significant provider of military and economic aid to Israel, totaling an impressive $3.8 billion annually. And guess what? They even promised additional equipment and ammunition to ensure Israel's defense. To show their unwavering support, the U.S. sent an aircraft carrier, ships, and jets to the eastern Mediterranean. The European Union and other Western countries have also joined the chorus, unequivocally condemning the Hamas attacks. These nations stand united with Israel, expressing solidarity in the face of aggression. Looking at China and Russia, rather than explicitly condemning Hamas, these countries have chosen to maintain communication with both sides involved in the conflict. This approach suggests that they opt to encourage a peaceful resolution. On to the regional players. Iran, a formidable regional power, is known for supporting Hamas and another thorn in Israel's side, the Lebanese Hezbollah movement. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has leveled a grave accusation against Israel, claiming they are perpetrating genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. In a stern warning, he emphasized the need for Israel to halt its ongoing attacks on the besieged territory immediately. Imagine a future where gunfire echoes are replaced by laughter, and coexistence becomes the norm. The Israel-Palestine conflict doesn't have to be an endless saga. The power for change lies within both parties' grasp, waiting to be seized. They can forge a better tomorrow, reminiscent of the peaceful havens they were once known for. By ending the conflict, they can create a legacy of harmony and prosperity for future generations. Resolving the conflict could open the door to enhanced diplomatic relations between Israel and its neighbors, fostering broader stability and peace. Peace could lead to increased economic opportunities, trade, and foreign investments in the region, benefiting the economies of both Israel and a future Palestinian state. Which country do you support? What do you think about the Israel-Palestine war? Give your opinions in the comments section. If you garnered fresh knowledge today, give this video a like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Discover the resilience that lies within you by watching the next video.